From Cali to Tally, it's time to wake up. WarChant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source, and this is Wake Up War Chant. Now here's WarChant.com's Aslan Hudjavandi and Corey Clark.
Bandit, me and my son are here.
Oh, I love your suits. It must be a in a size 68 extra fat and a 12 dwarf.
Wake up! What's going on? Friday edition of the program. I'm Aslan. He is Corey Clark. It's Wake Up War Chant. Thanks so much for being here on this Friday. Hope your week's been going by nice and easy. We got a game coming up tomorrow. Knowles taking on Samford. 7 o'clock, Dill Campbell Stadium. But before we get to that, Corey, I do want to know how you are. But obviously the news from yesterday, I'm sure, affected the trajectory of your Thursday. Man, Burt Reynolds, I mean, the epitome of legend, gone too soon. Well, 82 years old, 82 years young.
Yeah, and lived a good life. At least I would say the first. I know he had some health problems there at the end, but man, imagine being him in like 1975. Man,
living.
But and I actually tweeted when it happened that it can't be overstated how much he meant to Florida State University, and most people retweeted it and liked it or whatever. And one guy was like, "Well, yeah, I don't know what he meant to the university. Can you explain that?" And I'll try. So you got to think about. In the mid-'60s, late '60s, early '70s, when Burt Reynolds was becoming a star, and not just a star, the biggest movie star in the world, Florida State had been around as a co-ed school for 30 years. It was so far behind the other schools in the state or in the region, and it wasn't really well known at all. It had no football success to speak of, really. I mean, it had the Bill Peterson years, but nothing that overwhelmed the nation. And in the early to mid-'70s, it went through, obviously, the doldrums where they won 3 games in 4 years or 4 games in 4 years, whatever it was. It had a winless season. All the while, though, people like my dad's generation, who went to school in the mid-'60s, Burt Reynolds was the guy because he always talked up Florida State. He was a huge fan. He went to school at Florida State. He was a football player at Florida State, and he never forgot where he came from. And people all over the world, maybe that's overstating it, all over the country knew where Burt Reynolds went to school because he talked about it so much. And he was on the sidelines. He did the great moments in history with Burt Reynolds during the Bobby Bowden show each week for years.
With Gene Decker.
With Gene Decker. Well, actually, it was with Vic Prinzi. Would go. I think he'd fly out to California for a weekend and record the 13 or 14 shows that they would do and do 14 different moments with Burt Reynolds. And they aired it each week. He was such a part of the program. We know about Burt Reynolds Hall, but he bought them uniforms. He was the preeminent, prominent booster for Florida State athletics for years. And I'm not talking about the Boogie Nights years. I'm talking about the Smokey and the Bandit. What was the other one he did? Well, Deliverance, and then the Cannonball Run. Those years. Where he was the biggest star in the world. He was such a big star that it seemed like he made movies that didn't even have scripts. Like you can't tell me that those Cannonball Run movies had scripts. It was just, hey, we got a bunch of friends, let's go make a movie, people will go watch it. And it would be like the #1 movie in the country. And that's how big a star he was, but he never forgot about Florida State. Never. And I just think that the people of like my dad's generation and my generation too, it meant so much to them before Florida State made it. But I think Burt Reynolds had a bit to do with that because he was such a prominent booster. But before Florida State really meant it in football, Burt Reynolds was the guy that kind of made Florida State a national name and a national brand, and he never went away from that. I mean, I don't know where Tom Hanks went to school. I don't even know if he went to college. I don't know where Dom DeLuise went to school or Ed Norton, but everybody knew where Burt Reynolds went to school. And people never forget that and never forgot that. He's just a really big part of Florida State, especially when it was an up-and-coming power. And it was trying to build some credibility across the country and some name recognition. Burt Reynolds had a huge, huge part in that.
Dom DeLuise, huh? I like that.
Well, he was always with Burt Reynolds in those movies. That's why I mentioned him.
Yeah. Rest in peace, Bandit. 1977 Hall of Fame class.
Was it 1977 they inducted him? Mm-hmm. So yeah, man, and that was before. I think that was before at least one of the Smokey and the Bandits, maybe both of them. But I remember he used to date Sally Field.
Oh, yeah.
And my dad went to it was either the 79 or the 80 Orange Bowl in Miami, And Sally Field and Burt Reynolds were sitting like 4 rows behind them, so he got a bunch of pictures of them at the Orange Bowl game against Oklahoma. I mean, it's just he was the guy for Florida State fans, just the guy for Florida State students. And he was such a huge star, and it's hard to put into word. It's hard for people to realize now, especially younger people, how big a star that dude was. But he was the guy. He was the biggest in the world for maybe a decade. Just a huge movie star, and really just a big loss for the Florida State, not just the football community, the football program, but the university. Just a really big loss.
I mean, how about this? He was like Matthew McConaughey, but probably even on a bigger level. I mean, everybody knows Matthew McConaughey is Mr. Texas, right?
Yeah, but did he go to Texas?
I think he did.
And, yeah, that's a good comparison. I think Burt Reynolds was a bigger star than Matthew McConaughey, but I think the difference also is that Texas was a brand well before Matthew McConaughey. Nobody really cared or knew about Florida State University. And I shouldn't say nobody. Very few around the country knew about Florida State University until Burt Reynolds became the biggest movie star in the world and always talked up his university.
Right. That's what I was trying to say. Just imagine how big of a booster and cheerleader Matthew McConaughey's for Texas Austin, and
right.
The fact that that's obviously a huge institution. And then, like you said, Florida State, coming from being a female-only school to having the guy who's the biggest movie star, undoubtedly, kind of, pump his chest about that school and this university. That's super cool. And actually, yeah, he did go to UT Austin. He was part of the Delta Tau Delta fraternity. DTD, Delts in your mouth.
Oh, McConaughey was a frat boy, huh? All right, that fits, I think.
Yeah. So, anyhow, go out and win this one for the Bandit guys at Samford. Shouldn't be that much resistance. Hopefully not, right? But you, Corey, how are you, man? I mean, we 10 minutes in, I don't even know how you're doing.
I'm good, buddy. I'll be honest with you. That the Burt Reynolds news kind of threw me for a loop a little bit. It just kind of made me think about my dad, who's been gone for 7 years now, and just, I was such a young kid when Florida State was, my dad was such a huge Florida State fan. And until until he was my age, essentially, Florida State was always just okay. Top 20 program, top 10 sometimes, but always on the outside. But it was always Burt. I mean, Burt Reynolds was just weirdly just such a part of my childhood, not because of Smokey and the Bandit, although I love those movies, but because of the great moments in Florida State history with Burt Reynolds. That was, for whatever reason, not for whatever reason, but because it was something to be proud of. It's like, I think it was like a badge of honor for Florida State fans and Florida State students that they went to the same school as Burt Reynolds. And I know it was for my dad. I mean, it really did mean a lot to my dad and his friends and all his buddies from college that Burt Reynolds stayed so connected to the university. And it just started making me think about my dad and how much I miss him and how much I miss, just my childhood. And we're all getting older and we're all going to die alone.
Ain't that the truth? How about Lonnie Anderson? He was with Lonnie Anderson. She was a Fox back in the day. Burt had a good life, man. I mean, Burt lived.
I think he might have been with Ann Margaret, too. And obviously, I already mentioned the aforementioned Sally Field. But good grief. Folks, if you don't follow me on Twitter, I retweeted a picture that Greg Tish tweeted out of Burt Reynolds walking down North Monroe Street. I would put it at like 1972, maybe. And just look at that picture, what he's surrounded by. And imagine that life. He was a star for 40 years. So, and Boogie Nights one of my all-time favorite movies. I know that's old Burt Reynolds, but still, he was great in that too.
That's good, Burt Reynolds. Still, SVP, that's Scott Van Pelt's favorite movie. He's always talking about the Bandit, man. So,
yeah.
All right, let's step aside. Let's come back. Let's talk about football, the upcoming game. Not so much the upcoming game, but rather we're going to take some more of your guys' questions that you called in on the phone line, and we have some over-under numbers. We'll get to all that next, coming up here on Wake Up War Chant.
You're listening to Wake Up War Chant, low-carb beer for the Seminole soul. Back to Aslan and Corey.
I think heaven has sent you here, Dirk Diggler. I think the angels have blessed us all because of you.
Welcome back to the program. I'm Aslan. He's Corey Clark. You already know that. It's Wake Up War Chant. A reminder, folks, you can get us everywhere podcasts are available. iTunes, Google Play, Podcast Republic. We even stream on YouTube, so you can catch it out on your mobile device pretty much anywhere, anytime. It's really easy how that all sort of works out. And don't forget, use your promo code WARCHANT30 to get 30 free days on warchant.com on the premium access. And if you do become a member, don't forget you always get a 10% discount at Garnet and Gold, both online and in stores. All right, Corey, You ready to add to your lead here on the battle of the over and the under?
You know it.
I think we had 7, maybe 7. I think that's what Gene does, and I think you went 6-1. I think I went 1-6. I'll have to go back, but we know you're in the lead. So
I don't think you went. I think we agreed on a couple of them. I know we both missed attendance.
We did.
But then I think we got a couple of them right at least. I do have a commanding lead. You're correct about that. But I don't think you went 1-6. Come on, man.
And I'm not going to deviate just to make up ground on you. I'm gonna go with what my heart and my head say.
You have to, buddy. You have to.
That said, let's begin. All right, these are all set by Las Vegas, and by Las Vegas I mean over in Southwood, Gene Williams. Florida State rushing yards over under 250. Corey.
Under.
Oh, jeez, are you okay over there? Like, that was a real big deliberation for you.
Yeah, under. I was thinking about it. That just seems like a big number after what we watched. I think Samford will try to stack the box.
Okay. All right. I was going to say over. I'm going to say over. I think they got to be angry. You have to come out angry, chip on the shoulder, something to prove, and I don't know. I mean, Willie's like, we're just going to keep doing what we're going to do, but I feel like that's the one easiest thing to do, right? It's like, listen, we're just going to go out there and we're going to run block our ass off and we're going to shove it down their throat. I don't know if they can do that, but you'd figure they're going to have that mentality. So I'll go over. Feeling optimistic on that. Okay. Kalen LeBourne, his touches. So this is touches. We're not going to count kickoff returns, okay? So this will be
offensive touches.
There we go. Yes. From scrimmage, 6 over under.
Over.
Yeah, I mean he's going to get probably 3.
I think he'll double that.
Yeah, both over on that one. Okay. Longest FSU punt return, 15 yards.
Over.
I agree. I think DJ's going to bust one, hopefully.
They always do well on special teams against FCS schools. That's where their advantage really illuminates itself.
Nice. Illuminates. I like that. DeAndre Francois, touchdown passes, 3. Over under. Push. I'm going to go under. I don't think he'll throw for 4.
I agree. I think it'll be a push, though, but yes, under.
Yeah. James Blackman playing time, 1 quarter. I'm going to say under.
I'll say over.
Oh, okay.
I'll say over.
I think there's enough things that got to iron out that it's like, all right, James, we love you, we appreciate you, but we got to get this thing figured out. And then,
I mean, there's a chance, and I could be 100% wrong. This is a decent FCS team. They went in the playoffs last year, and they're coming off a 70-6 win or whatever, and they have the reigning conference player of the year, so they can play a little bit, and they've had 4 extra days to prepare. But I think these are the kind of teams where if you play well on offense, you should overwhelm them to the point that you're up 45-0. And if you have a 45-point lead in the third quarter, you can't play your starting quarterback.
I guess, right?
That would be my thought on that.
Good teams win, great teams cover. I don't know what kind of team you are, but when you play an FCS team, you have to not only say embarrass them, but you have to dominate them. So let's hope they can get that done. This is something I saw somebody point out. I don't know how much this could factor in, but I think Chris Hatcher, who was longtime coach at Valdosta State, maybe even at Georgia Southern or Georgia State. Yeah. Sorry, I get you guys confused, Southern and State.
Georgia Southern.
He's the head coach at Samford.
Yeah, they do the air raid. They throw it all over the lot. They throw it a ton. So they get it out of their hands quick. But you just got to hope your cornerbacks win those one-on-one battles and make tackles in open field because that's what they do. It's a lot of short passes.
I'm not so much worried about the scheme. I'm more worried about just chip on the shoulder, like him probably being a guy that looked up.
Well, he was here before. He coached. Who did he coach? Like Murray State or somebody? He was the coach of them a few years ago when they came in here and they lost 69-0.
Okay, so
chip on the shoulder. He should have had a chip on his shoulder then too. In fact, little interesting small world story. I was the sports editor in Valdosta when Chris Hatcher was hired at Valdosta State, and his defensive coordinator was Will Muschamp, and his defensive backs coach was Kirby Smart.
Wow,
isn't that crazy? Yeah,
that's bizarre.
That was both of their first jobs out of college.
Ooh, 2012, 69-3. That was
Oh,
his
so they
third
did
year
get the
at
field
Murray
goal.
State.
So maybe he's upset about that. Maybe he wants to actually put a couple touchdowns on the board this time.
Oh.
But this Samford is a much better program, and this quarterback I assume is much better than the guy he had at Murray State in 2012.
The Racers. All right, back to the over-under. Logan Tyler, punting average, 42. Under. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I'm going to go under until he proves me wrong.
Wes Duval.
Is Gene just going to be throwing that in each week?
Probably. He's got a couple go-tos, it looks like. And this is probably going to be one of them. I mean, it's tough to come up with 7 different lines every single game, Corey. Come on, man.
Well, true.
Wes Duval pointed this out on the boards. He was saying, well, it's tough. I actually, now that I'm going to say this out loud, I'm going to have to maybe disagree with him. He's a good guy, though. Was saying maybe it was a little bit difficult for him because he was punting out of his end zone most of the time. So I guess you're in a rush.
And he got a punt blocked.
Yeah, so that kind of jars you. But I feel like, man, if you are like in your own goal line or if you're on your own 2, like you have to uncork one. Like there's no touch, there's no finesse. It's like you have to absolutely punt this thing's head off, and he didn't. So we'll say under.
No, he hits those nice line drives.
Yeah. All right. Announced attendance 65,000. You go first. Under. Yeah, I think so as well. 65.
I think there'll be a lot of youth groups there. A lot of people, a lot of pockets of people wearing the same color shirts, yeah. But usually they're bright colors too, the youth groups. But I will say, announce it. I think again that's a really good number. I think it'll be right around that, but maybe somewhere in this like 63 or something.
Yeah, this is going to make people upset, and I don't want to do it intentionally, but like, what do people expect from fans? I mean, I know fans have to be loyal, but like, what do people really expect against Samford in terms of like a turnout? And like, I mean, 65,000 it's kind of an embarrassing number. I mean, when your stadium used to be 82,000 capacity, now it's 79, and then you go to 65. I mean, I guess it's what you get when you get these games, but it's just I don't know. Ugh.
It's a night game. So people can't just come up for the day. If they're from somewhere else in the state, you don't want to get back on the road to drive back to South Florida at midnight or 11:30. The hotel prices are always an issue. And are you going to spend that kind of money for Samford?
Absolutely not.
The answer is no. And I don't blame anyone. And I long ago decided not to be one of those sports writers that tweets out pictures of the stadium before the game, because I get paid to go to these games. I don't have to pay money. I get paid to go to these games. So I'm never, ever going to criticize someone for not showing up. Well, I shouldn't say never, ever. Rarely will I criticize a fan base for not showing up, especially with what we saw Monday night, especially that it's Samford. And then also, you got Florida and Clemson later in the year where those people can't come from out of state or from downstate for every game. They just can't. And it's a new year. It's 2018, man. Sorry. It's when you schedule these types of games, don't expect a big crowd.
Yeah. That's it. And, I'm with you on that.
And also maybe give these people, and I know Virginia Tech was a nice opener and a nice environment, but you keep scheduling these great non-conference games not in your stadium. Wow. So I kind of understand a fan that's like, you know what? You don't kind of care enough about me and my season tickets to schedule LSU for Doak or Boise State for Doak. I got to go to Jacksonville for that. Well, you know what? I'm not going to Samford.
Bam.
Sorry.
I've always wondered, like, what percentage of people in the stadium, like especially for a Samford game, are from Leon County or live in Leon County, then how many are coming from outside? Because, yeah, I mean, like, I'm not going to dog anybody for not coming up for this game. I totally get it. No guilt going to be doled out from this program. All right, last over-under, Corey. Total points for Florida State, 50.
So 50 points for Florida State is
Correct.
What we're talking about.
Yep.
I will say, you know what? I'm going to say over.
Oh, there you go.
Feeling bullish, even though on a short week and everything. I think you got to think by the third or fourth quarters, Florida State will have them worn out, and they will be scoring almost at will in the third and fourth quarters. You would hope against that kind of team.
Again, Corey, you said there's not a lot to take out from this game, but you don't think you'll feel any differently if Florida State scores 30 as opposed to 55 in this game? It won't change the way you feel about the offense?
Yes, 100%. If they struggle again against an FCS team, then yeah, I was more along the lines of even if they win 55-20 or they score 55 against Samford, that's not going to really tell us a whole lot. If they score 30 or 26 or heaven forbid 3, well then yeah, that's going to tell us plenty that the offense is completely broken.
All right, we'll let you folks tell us more when we come back after this. We'll take your calls. It's Wake Up War Chant. Come right back after this.
WarChant.com is the ultimate inside source for FSU football and recruiting. And now you can get in on the action for free for an entire month. WarChant.com is offering a risk-free 30-day trial subscription. Get full access to the #1 website covering the Seminoles just by entering the promo code WarChant30. That's WarChant30. Sign up and get in on the world's most active FSU message boards. Receive breaking news, stories from our award-winning staff, plus get exclusive interviews and videos. Just enter the promo code WarChant30. WarChant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.
You do this very often?
I'm just as far from Tallahassee as you are, honey.
Wake up! I'm Aslan. He's Corey. It's Wake Up War Chant. Thanks for being here. We do appreciate it, as always. Got the over-under in the bag. Let's go to the phone lines now, Corey. We have about six-pack of questions from the phone lines.
Oh, boy.
It's going to be fine. We're going to make it through it pretty good, I promise.
All right. No, I mean, I love our callers, but after yesterday's marathon, I was hoping this would be maybe a little tinier podcast.
I'll keep my thoughts very brief. You can do the same. We'll be out of here
Sweet.
quick.
You got it, buddy. You got it.
Hey, fellas. Jim in Tampa, a.k.a. the Bay Area, a.k.a. 5517. Well, it's not what I expected. I expected to see more of a better passing Quentin Flowers type quarterback where DeAndre could use his legs and arm. They didn't really use him in that regard. I'm not sure if he's hurt or something, whatever. They didn't want him to get hurt. But there were some plays there that could have been made. The ball didn't bounce our way, and we just didn't play good. So, make no excuses. We need to do something.
Yeah. Just a shout out to Jim. Like, Jim coming up and owning it. I promise you, Jim, anybody that ever calls and wants to drop, like, real atomic takes, we probably won't unearth him and try to guilt you about it. But Jim was just want us to let us know that he realizes he said 55-17 didn't work out that way. It's all right. Nobody saw 24-3, Jim. You're not alone.
I mean, when you think about it, you're only off by half 100 points. When you miss something by 52, that's not big in the grand scheme of life, the universe. He picked the right sport. He knew they'd be playing football. I'm just funning you, Jim. Nobody thought I was obviously pretty leery of 55 just because of who they were going up against in the first game in the new system. But nobody could have predicted 3 points. Not even Bud Foster's mama or his wife would have thought they were going to go down there and hold Florida State to 3 points.
Right, and a better passing Quentin Flowers. That's a good hope. That's a good and optimistic take. But yeah, Quentin Flowers is pretty dynamic with his feet.
And he doesn't. DeAndre doesn't run like that. Maybe they could find somebody, recruit somebody. They should be able to. But yeah, Francois is not that.
All right, next question.
Wake up! It's Sam from Arkansas. Listen, I'm not a size guy, and I know I've talked about this a lot lately, but I really think this team in particular has a size issue. When you match up in your first quarter and you're like, wait, we're smaller than Virginia Tech, not bigger, and especially when you matched up, our number 1 corner against 6'5" freshman, and they just threw it to him like it was no problem. That was early on. So is it a coaching question, as in, do we have enough big guys? They're not all ready to go yet. And I think that was one thing that Jimbo always had was size, and you always felt like they were underperforming. So thanks. Y'all are doing a great job. Bye.
Thanks, Sam in Arkansas. That's a new one, Corey. Florida State too small?
Well, on defense, it's a pretty small defense in the back seven. When Jaden Woodby's essentially a linebacker, Ja'Kalen Brooks is smaller than him, or as small as, I know he didn't play, but he's small. Most teams are going to have corners that are Levante Taylor size, and he's a good cornerback. size hasn't really been an issue with him in his first 2 years. It certainly was on Monday night. He's just got to get better at that, especially if he wants to play at the next level, because all those dudes are 220 pounds and 6'5". So yeah, I mean, but remember, I couldn't quite. Who asked the question? Was it Jim?
Sam in Arkansas.
Sam in Arkansas. I don't know if that was like if it was like a light indictment of Willie. But remember, all the guys that are playing, other than Woodby, are Jimbo's players. So if it's a size issue, it's not a Willie Taggart size issue. I mean, I'm sure he wants big linebackers that can run. Right now, he doesn't really have that. And everybody wants 6'2" corners. There's not a lot to go out there. I mean, Sanford Samuels has the requisite size, but he's still not 100% healthy, and he plays safety anyway. They aren't bigger than Virginia Tech. They should be better. And Virginia Tech's a good program. Florida State should have better players. And I'm not sure that they don't. They just played really badly on Monday night. And again, I think if you're going to have a size concern, it's on defense, right? The offense, the linemen are plenty big. It doesn't mean they're good, but they're big. And the wide receivers are big, a few of them anyway. I think the size concern you have is on defense, which is rightfully so with guys like Adonis Thomas and Jaden Woodby at linebacker. But, that's kind of where the game is going. And quite frankly, the defense wasn't the reason they lost the game. The defense played pretty well.
Yeah, I don't feel like Levante got exposed a few times because of his height, but you really can't change that. I don't think Adonis Thomas wasn't getting lost in the first drive because of his size. That was more of a want to or knowing your assignment kind of thing. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. I mean, you got to get big, strong, fast people. I'm sure he'll do it. He knows how to recruit well. Next question.
Aslan, Corey, once again, you guys are awesome. It's Jeremy from Fort Lauderdale. Just curious, do you think this week Willie might sit back, let Walt Bell take a couple series or even a quarter, just so he can evaluate the whole team and see the big picture? Thanks for all you guys do. Go Noles and go Wake Up War Chant.
Dang right.
That's our first Go Wake Up War Chant. I like that.
Get a chant, yeah.
I would be surprised if that happened. Maybe if it gets out of hand. I don't quite know Willie's history of letting – since he started calling all the plays, I don't know if he's let coordinators take a series or two here or there. My opinion is the guy has said since he got here that he calls the plays, that he will call the plays. Walt Bell devises the game plan, installs the game plan, but on Saturday, because he wants to go fast, he's the one that's calling the plays. And after one bad game, I don't know if you want your head coach after one bad game, if he's really worth his salt in the guy that you think you got to make, in my opinion, a panic move, which would be like, oh, I don't really know what I'm doing. Let's let him try it. Like either you have confidence in your play calling ability or you don't. One game, even an awful one, I would hope wouldn't lessen your confidence to a point where you let the other guy take over for even a couple of series. Because what if Walt Bell's really good at it, but it's against Samford? Is Willie Taggart against Syracuse or against Miami? Is he going to let Walt Bell call plays? I don't know. I would be surprised if he gave him a series. Yeah, but he might. Who knows?
I don't want to go too deep inside football. Actually, I would like to. We just can't because we wouldn't get a true full answer to this. But how do you coordinate the game plan if you're Walt Bell but you don't call the plays? So, Willie's what do they script their first 10 plays? Walt scripts them, and then Willie's going to call them. So then who's really calling them if Walt scripted it? In terms of, installing the game plan, is Willie just be like, listen, I want these 20 pass plays, integrate these 10 run plays that we just added, and then...
Yeah, no, I think what you do, I think if you trust your offensive coordinator, Walt Bell, you say, all right, give me, against the Samford defense, give me the 15 running plays that you think are the best, including your 3 best for down and distances. 2nd and 8, what are we calling? 2nd and 2. And then same thing with the passing plays. Give me your 10 or 12 best passing plays. What are the ones you want to call in what spot with what personnel, and let me go from there. Give me the game plan of how we should be looking to attack. What are your best running plays against this look? What are your best running plays against this defense? Because you've scouted them. I know Willie Taggart's scouting them too, but again, Willie Taggart's the head coach. He's doing other things, presumably, other than just scouting the Samford defense. So I think that's where you lean on your offensive coordinator to say on Friday night and Saturday at the walkthrough when the Samford people are filming it, say these are the plays, these are our bread and butter against this defense.
I didn't have the onions to bring that up to Jimbo, or sorry, to Willie. I apologize to Willie. It's the whole getting filmed in the parking lot thing. Again, I didn't think it was a big deal. I know a lot of people do. I don't. You made a good little dry joke about it, but that would have been kind of weird if I would have asked him about it. Wouldn't it have? Like, hey,
I don't know what you do other than get people to make people shut their curtains. I don't know, like the president's coming to town or something, and you have to check all the windows. I don't know what they can do other than not do it in a parking lot.
Where are the towel boys at? Where are the towel boys? Have them hold the towels up,
Erect a tent.
Yeah,
put a tent up in the parking lot.
You got one for the injuries. Just have your walkthrough tent.
Yeah,
throw it up. Piece of cake. All right, we got 3 more questions. Let's get to them right after this. It's Wake Up War Chant. Coming right back.
You're listening to Wake Up War Chant.
All knows, every day. Now back to Corey and Aslan.
What are we going to do, Lewis? You're the guy with the answer. What the hell do we do now?
Now you get to play the game.
He's Corey Aslan. You already know that, but I'm going to continue saying it because I don't know what else to say. What else do you say when you come back from quasi-commercial break, Corey? Do I just get right to it? 3 more questions left in the voicemail box. Let's get to it.
I feel like that's the right play to make. Yeah, they know where they are. They didn't leave us. We left them, so they know what's up.
All right. Next question.
Aslan and Corey, this is Wilson from Amarillo, Texas. Hey, just got 2 quick questions. Wake up! One, do you think that Taggart's debut had less to do with his inability to coach and more to do with him kind of caving under the pressure and hype that he built kind of for himself and for his debut? And then 2, next question. I know that Taggart is basically the 3rd Harbaugh guy. And so my question is, do you think that he follows Jim Harbaugh in terms of not being able to win a big game? Because if so, this season is going to hell in a handbasket really quick. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Wilson from Amarillo, Texas. Coming in hot.
I will say that Harbaugh got to a Super Bowl.
He did. I remember it vividly. I was there. I was actually covering that Super Bowl. Lights went out.
The lights went out, that's right. Yeah. I feel like, that you have to win a few big games to get to a Super Bowl. Plus, Stanford beat USC in like one of the biggest upsets in college football history. Yeah. He made Stanford like a legitimate college football program. So I don't think that's something that can like rub off on you. I'm with Harbaugh and he doesn't win big games. So, and the other Harbaugh won the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Harbaughs have won the big games, and then the dad won a national championship, I believe, with Willie as his coordinator.
Correct.
So, they, he's been around. The Harbaughs have been around championships. As it goes for the other question, I think I can't remember if I said it on our show or on headlines that Willie did not coach well at all. On Monday night, you couldn't argue otherwise. They looked almost like they hadn't practiced. It was a bad look for them. But you can coach a bad game, and it doesn't mean you're a bad coach. And so, I don't know I don't know that the pressure got to him. I'm sure he was nervous, but I don't know if that explains why his quarterback made some poor reads. I think DeAndre was not good with some of the read stuff at all. And in the second half, he devolved into chaos. And his last 2 second halves of the games he's played have been absolute train wrecks. Like even before he got hurt against Alabama, he was terrible. And then he also was terrible in the second half against Virginia Tech. After having 2 good first halves in both of those games, he's got to figure that out. He can't be a guy that just evolves into chaos, because then you got to, once you see, okay, Francois is not in a groove anymore, we can't play him. He hasn't shown really, it doesn't seem like he's shown the ability to get himself out of that. That to me was a bigger deal. Also in the offensive line, that to me was a bigger deal than Willie choking, quote unquote choking. But I do think that he did not coach well, and maybe the moment did get to him a little bit. Again, it's his first time at Florida State. I mean, the moment got to Jim, I'm going to keep harping on it. Jimbo's first big game at Florida State got completely overwhelmed and outcoached and got embarrassed. There's a learning curve. It's a growing curve. You got to grow into this role a little bit. This isn't like South Florida and even Oregon. It's a different deal, man. And maybe it did get to him a little bit. I don't think that explains 24-3. I just think his quarterback didn't play all that well. In the second half was terrible. His offensive line did him no favors.
He put up the surrender code. Did that bother you when Cam fumbled? Because I know Jimbo took a beating when he collapsed. Was it during the Virginia game when Jimbo?
He fell to the ground after Burt Reed almost caught that pass. Yeah.
I mean, I don't blame him for putting.
What do you mean he put up the surrender code?
You put your cobra. You put your hands on top, both of your hands on top of your head. It looks like the they call it the surrender cobra because you look like the whatever it's called. You know, like a king cobra when it gets mad. Behind it. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's all you really can do. But I know people want you got to stay stoic. You got to boom. But
or you got to scream at your quarterback.
That never hurt. Yeah,
no,
listen,
exactly right.
I think the only thing he's similar, or the two things he's similar to Jim Harbaugh is I think they're both huge fans of Kodak Black. And other than that, I think they both appreciate and place great emphasis on a power run game. And when that doesn't work for them, I think things do go a little sideways. But otherwise, I don't think there's no Harbaugh can't win the big games as he went to Michigan, and now Willie's tensed up because they're coming from a similar philosophy, mindset, or whatever. But I do think maybe, to Ira's point that he made again that we spoke about, the whole 3-2-1 where he said that Willie was probably thinking about the best and wasn't prepared for the worst. I mean, maybe at some point in the second half, I don't want to say panic sets in, but when nothing goes your way, maybe you start pressing, maybe you start getting away from some of the things that you were trying to maybe set up, and you're trying to find just some sort of spark. And maybe that's why things looked a little bit, disconnected in the second half. Because the first half, I don't know how much of it's DeAndre playing well, or maybe it's just Willie was actually calling pretty good plays. Because, listen, I mean, there was numerous instances. Keith drops the touchdown. Nooney gets dragged down inside the goal line, but it doesn't get challenged. They get into field goal range. Ricky misses it. I mean, they moved the ball.
Yeah, I mean, they could have they didn't. And, it doesn't count as would have and could haves in football, but they could have had legitimately 20 points in the first half.
Yeah.
They probably, you could argue they should have. I mean, Gavin should have caught the ball, and Nooney was in the end zone. Well, okay, that's 14 points. No, I guess that's whatever that would be. That would be 10 extra points that they didn't get, or 11 extra points they didn't get because they had to settle for a field goal. So, yeah, you're looking at – and then they missed a field goal. So 17, 20 points would have been about what they should have had commiserate with their production and where they got on the field. The second half was an abomination, but the first half should have had 20 points. And then, Jeff Cameron's telling me, I haven't seen the film, and I think it was a terrible call, but he's saying that if they don't fumble the ball, Rasul has a chance to score.
I saw somebody post screenshots of it. There's three guys, there's three Virginia Tech defenders. There was one receiver downfield, and he had Jaquez and somebody else had him. So he did have three blockers. But to say that they wouldn't have broken off their block, to say that somebody from the backside, who's to say somebody from the backside wouldn't have pursued. I mean, listen, it was third and goal or 3rd and 10 from the 12. It wasn't like it was 3 yards they had to get.
No, it was 3rd and goal from the 10. It was 4 down territory, so maybe they're thinking, okay, we get it to the 2, and then we run it again real quick. And then there also was another play where if Akers hands it off to Harrison on the reverse,
that one to me
like
seems
he
more,
definitely has a chance to score.
Yeah, that one seems you can sell me on that one a little easier. That was.
So they got 3 points, and that's what they got. That's what they earned. No, they weren't. I mean, they earned 10. They earned 7 points, let's say, because Nooney was in the end zone. But they got about what they earned. Points weren't stolen away from them. They stole it from themselves. But you could watch that game again and say, you know what? As awful as it was, especially in that stretch in the third quarter, they were kind of close to 24 or 27 points,
All right,
which isn't a train wreck considering who you were playing and, again, how bad you were last year.
Touche. Next question.
This is Sevy up in Nashville. Enjoy the show, guys, and had a great time chatting with Corey at both Spirit and the Corner Pocket this past weekend. This question is specifically for Corey. In the moment, did you think that the 3 unanswered points that FSU dropped on Virginia Tech at the 7:26 mark of the second quarter that stood for nearly 4 entire minutes was going to be enough to turn the tide of the game? I'll hang up and listen. Thanks, guys.
I mean, that's a really funny question. That's really good. That's really well done, the 3 unanswered points. Yeah, no, I didn't think the 3 unanswered points were going to be enough. Because, remember, Virginia Tech started with 10 unanswered points of their own. So the 3 unanswered points that followed their 10 unanswered points weren't enough to answer. And then, Virginia Tech finished the game legitimately with 14 unanswered points.
All right, buckle up. It's the last question, but it looks like it's
Let's do it. Is it a doozy? Is it a long one?
It says minute 15. I have not listened to it yet. So
are they yelling at us? Can you read the transcript?
I can. Looks like no
All right, okay.
ill will.
It was nice. Everybody, again, I know I said it before, but it was very nice meeting everyone that came out and talked to me at Corner Pocket and to us at the War Chant meet and greet, and then also me at Spirit. It wasn't when we did a Seminole Headlines thing at Spirit, but many people came up and said how much they enjoyed Wake Up War Chant. I listen to you every day. I got a lot of that. So obviously they weren't talking about headlines. That Corner Pocket people were just really, really nice about the show.
Awesome, man.
So
cool.
Thank you. It's really neat. It's kind of cool to have that kind of praise.
Do you have any? Do you have a T-shirt for me? Did you keep a T-shirt, or did you all out of T-shirts?
No, I'm all out. I didn't keep one for myself. I know.
So selfless.
I know.
So selfless. All right, let's hit the last one, Rip.
Hey guys, it's Josh from South Dakota. Been a rough week, but I just wanted to touch base with you guys. Something that was going through my head during that whole game on Monday night was seemed like we were basically to the point where we could assume at certain times that we were going to be able to stop them, and then basically we were hoping to score points. And I think that's kind of a stigma that's been around for a little while. Even back in the last decade, we had teams that weren't very good, but we could still provide solid defense. And it was just like, we were scratching to get points. And that's why I was hoping with Willie in town now that it would be kind of a thing where we could kind of jump on them offensively and, hold our own on defense. But it seems like it continues to be more of the same. And then also kind of your thoughts on how come it seems we can get any D end in the country right now, but as far as offensive linemen recruits, it's becoming more and more of a chore to get them to jump on board. So it's kind of your thoughts. Appreciate it.
Okay. Yeah. We were all expecting a lot of points. We're expecting 90 plays. But I don't think we're treading back into the lost decade. But I guess you could say there was a parallel. I mean, I agree that there was a point in there where you felt like that defense was going to continue to get you the ball. It was whether or not they're going to get 3 and out or how quickly they're going to get you the ball. But it was, will this offense ever figure out a way to get something going? And I think we pretty much counted them out. And then Cam Akers finally busted off that run. You're like, okay, well, here you go. This is it. And then it wasn't it. So, yeah, that was tough.
Yeah, that sums it up well. On to the point about the offensive linemen, I've made this point repeatedly. They weren't good at recruiting that position for years. Either recruiting it, I think, was the main issue because they just, Rick Trickett did some very fine work at Florida State, but he wasn't everybody's cup of tea. If you're a senior in high school and if you got all the other big boys after you, maybe you don't want to go play for that guy. So they limited the candidates in their pool. They limited the fish in their pool that they could get out. So their recruiting pool wasn't as stocked as it should have been at that position. I think he took great pride in taking 2- and 3-star guys and making them starters or making them NFL players, and that did happen. But by and large, a lot of those 2- and 3-star guys played like 2- and 3-star guys. They had some guys that moved over from defense to offense. And anyway, so the offensive line it just wasn't, I'm not saying it wasn't a priority, but they recruited the best in the country at every other position or tried to. At an offensive line, they didn't. They couldn't. They weren't in on kids they should have been in on. And I think some of that had to do with they were not up for playing for Rick Trickett. And so that's something that has to be. That's something I think that will be changed. I think the pool will be bigger now. It will be more stocked with guys they can get, and we'll see. I mean, Greg Fry's been on the job for 8 months, so we'll see what he and Taggart can do when it comes to recruiting offensive linemen. I know they like the kid that's in Bradenton, right? The kid that's
Tampa.
at IMG.
That
Pope.
kid too. Yeah, not the Pope.
They like him.
Evan, the Pope's the. Actually, no, the Pope's a guard too. You're right. I apologize.
Yeah.
Dante Lucas. You're right. They already have him in the fold.
Yeah, so they like him, and and I know they had a nice recruiting class a few years ago. It was ranked as a bunch of 4-stars, but not many of those guys have played like 4 stars. Maybe Dickerson, but he's had a hard time staying healthy, and that's just bad luck. But again, it was a position that even when they were great. And I'll make this point because I like to hammer points home. Even when they were great in 13 and 14, Cam Erving came in as a defensive tackle. He did not come to play to Florida State to play for Rick Trickett. Brian Stork came in as a tight end. He did not come to Florida State to play for Rick Trickett. They ended up playing for him and making a lot of money because of him. Well, Erving made a lot of money because of him, but they weren't recruited by Rick Trickett. Trey Jackson was literally a last week commitment. He wasn't recruited until the last week of his senior season at Georgia Tech before signing day, and before signing day, he spurned Georgia Tech to sign with Florida State. But it wasn't like Rick Trickett saw him and identified him way back when. That was kind of a stroke of luck that they got that Trey Jackson was still available. So when you look at it, and Bobby Hart was a 17-year-old. So when you look at it that way, man, it was kind of, that was kind of a perfect storm to have that NFL offensive line. But since then, they've really, really struggled there. And, I think it's going to take a year or two at least to get that off. And Aslan's right. Like, nobody's really excited about their offensive line except for the people in Tuscaloosa, maybe Georgia. But do you remember, Aslan? I'm asking you. 13, the offensive line was great, but Jameis Winston got so much attention. But the first half of 2014, it struggled, especially at center. And Brian Stork was a big loss. And then they moved Cam Erving to center. And it was like, oh my word, look at what Dalvin Cook can do now.
Yep.
When an offensive line can move people out of the way, it is a sight to behold, man. And Dalvin Cook was great, but it's certain you knew going into games, even the Oregon game, that they are going to dominate them up front. And they did. It's just Dalvin Cook couldn't hold on to the football. But he had 100 yards in the first half of that game. And most of it up the middle. It's just because they moved Cam Erving to center. It's when you get great NFL offensive lineman caliber players, it makes a world of difference. And I don't know that they have anybody on their roster right now that is going to be an early round pick in the NFL, if an NFL draft pick at all.
By the way, I forgot to mention this, and I'll mention it at the top of the show on Monday. This is a really cool partnership we got going on with War Chant Rivals, as well as a Pro Football Focus. They do this really in-depth analytical grading of every single player on every single team, Corey. So they're providing.
I saw that.
The two guys who graded the highest, actually the three highest grades on Florida State offensively, and 4 out of the 5 were offensive linemen. Alec Eberle was your highest graded offensive player. Landon Dickerson was second. Derek Kelly third. Jacques Patrick fourth. And then Mike Arnold was actually fifth, which that surprised me. I thought Mike had some bad beats. But yeah, so there you go, everybody who thought the offensive line is just absolutely abysmal. Maybe Derek Kelly moving out to tackle.
Nobody was good.
All right, I guess so. But I mean, again, who knows? Maybe Derek Kelly moving to tackle, and by the time Landon Dickerson gets better, maybe if he moves back inside, who knows? Maybe this looks completely different, and they've stumbled onto something. But also, speaking of offensive line, I'm going really off the rails, and I know we got to wrap things up. Like Roger Johnson got waived, right? Like, is he on a roster right now? Rod Johnson?
I don't know if he made a roster, but yeah, he got waived.
And he was the last great guy, right? Crazy how that
Well,
works.
And he was a 5th-round pick, so he wasn't as good as we thought, but he did win that blocking award, I think, in the ACC a couple times, and he was good. He was a good offensive lineman, a good college offensive lineman. But Cam Erving probably was their. I mean, he was very good at left tackle. I think he was a left tackle, right?
Yep.
And then, but was an incredible center for that last half of that senior season. He was really, really good at center. So, yeah, good for him, man. I always like dealing with Cam, and he just got paid a lot of money. He got an extension from the Chiefs.
Yep, good for him. All right, Corey, we got to go. It's over. NFL returns. That'll be kind of cool. Makes the weekends seem that much better. But what else can we do to make our weekends and maybe just our life seem and feel better? You have any advice to offer us before we go?
Well, I would say to watch Deliverance in honor of Burt Reynolds. And also, if you watch Deliverance, no matter where you are in your life right now, you might be going through a hard time. We all know about hard times. Maybe it's a divorce. Maybe you broke up with your girlfriend. Maybe you got a test you got to study for and you're not prepared. Maybe your football team just lost 24-3. There's a lot of stuff that can go on in our lives that put us in a down mood. Well, when you watch Deliverance, you're going to feel better about yourself. That's all I'm going to say. And I love each and every one of you. You're the best. R.I.P. Burt Reynolds, an all-time Florida State great. Aslan, have somebody play us out.
And a short time to get there. I'm westbound, just watch old Bandit run.